Yes, man, he's just good as gold.
Yeah.
Daniel.
He's usually down Paul if he's been here.
And your cousin
I don't.
decided
Andy's
to
not
open
going
his
to be
mouth
here.
and tell
I was informed
my
of
dad
that.
if he got that Gen 3 model,
Oh, yeah.
he'd help him with it. I'm like,
Well, we gotta
just
form.
be sorry what you.
I'll text Dan
plot
real
in
quick.
the other day down at Bill Walker's, and I got down there at the end and was helping him, and it's smooth. That tractor and the monitor, it's Peyton's real happy.
Yeah.
I mean, David plants some, but Peyton does a lot of it. But he's like, it's so much nicer than tracks, not tearing it up. And then Grandpa likes it because it has nice lights. So he's
Important things.
Grandpa boy, like sweet corn patch and then making sure we have enough lights. That's his most important stuff.
So we can see it from the house, or what?
He loves lights.
I got a fancy emergency light for my Gator a couple of years ago, and David saw that and he said, "Don't show me that."
Yeah, yeah. No, Grandpa, he loves lights.
Which is how we typically handle it.
It's programmable. You can just push a button, different kinds of sequences on the emergency light.
On your phone though?
No, it's
Okay, I was gonna say good because he can't do his phone. We got him an David. My dad got him an iPhone from a flip phone. He still can't work it. It's always shut off. And my dad's like, Bob, if I need you, I need it to
Yeah, I
be
was just
on
asking if
to
you had
call
to-
you.
So what I would
I said that with my grandma more. She's like, oh, I don't want to bother you guys, but Dad's like, if I need you, I need it to be on, Jamie.
Yeah.
But
why do they turn it off?
don't ask. It's just what they do.
That's what my mom
always did.
I can't wait till the day that I get to turn mine off. That's what I look forward to.
You know,
Sometimes you just got to do it.
I put it on silent every night because I don't care if there's a cow in the road on 29 south of Kirkland or something. Those nicks will come in and like I don't need to know that.
Well,
That's what Frankfurt does. Shouldn't be. He's kind of quit doing it.
well.
guys ready?
you know, all the little towns, all the little towns did it for a long time too,
Yeah, till we had planning and kind of went.
so. That's the only way.
Hang on, we're getting recorded set up here. And the computer isn't back in here, so she has to text him, tell him to start remotely.
He just texted me and said we're live.
Okay, perfect. So we got it recorded? Alright, good.
Okay, it's past 6 o'clock. I'll call this May 2nd Area Plan Commission meeting to order. First item is roll call of members.
Jordan Brewer,
Here.
Grant Muller,
Here.
Clark Beard,
Here,
Walt Minnick,
Here.
Dee Bailey's absent, Mike Emmons,
Here,
absent, staff Liz Stitzel and Kat Bell are present, as well as APC attorney. Jim Hunt.
Okay, next item is our minutes. I believe we have two. We have regular minutes from April as well as the special minutes. We'll do it in two different motions, but is there any changes that need to be received to the minutes? None? Okay, do I have a motion to?
motion to approve the April 4th regular scheduled meeting minutes.
second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say aye. Okay, 5-0. Do I have a motion for the special minute?
I'll make a motion to approve the special minutes.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, 5-0 on the special minutes. Our first item will be under old business, and that will be the application CC 2023-00191. It's the petition of Prince Alexander for the PUD, I believe. So, do you kind of want to go through it again? All right.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna go through literally
Yeah.
every sentence, but I am gonna try to go through and kind of summarize where we're at.
Yep.
So I went ahead and brought printed copies, both because I failed to do that at the last meeting, but because, given the short timelines, I was afraid not all of you would be somewhere where you could print something. What I've done, per your request, I did it both, it's both done in the final PUD document, but also in the staff report. I've highlighted, kind of summarizing what's changed. So the staff report, I've used blue. And, there were a lot of items that, were kind of missing or not fully detailed or of concern when we continued this at the last meeting, so I'm just kinda hit those, and how they've been addressed. So one of the, probably the biggest concerns was the open space plan really, wasn't what it needed to be and didn't make it clear what was there. So as of now, we have a more detailed permanent open space plan. 10.72% of the site will be permanent open space that will be preserved by easement and mutually beneficial to all parts of the development. The RV campground is gonna be responsible to maintain the space in terms of the labor needed to keep it looking nice. But an owners association will be created to collect funds for that maintenance in general, and there'll be a board of directors, which that'll be part of the subdivision process when that actually gets created. That'll be able to collect those funds and hold them and then determine, if we're giving them to the campground, great. But additionally, well, not specified at this level, it would show up in the covenants, individual developments will be expected to have some added green space they each install as they build, and they maintain, but that's above and beyond the 10.27, that's, 10% is required in our ordinance in order to approve a PUD, so they're over that. As we move on down, when this first came before us, there really wasn't anything about, waste handling, or, even though they talked with Dan Sheets, the general drainage plan. Those items have now been added into the plan specifying how waste will be collected and removed, and that there will be a drainage plan and a little bit about that. And again, under drainage plan, an owners association will be created to collect funds for the common maintenance, of that plan. So we would expect to see that in their subdivision ordinance. Moving on down, the proposed schedule of construction and completion, which the main reason this is relevant is if they're failing to meet it, then it would cause us to examine whether or not the PUD is actually still active or should be abandoned. So they flushed this out in more detail, and it does have now some more specific dates and quarters to it, and kind of has more of the major components listed out instead of being so general. Again, we'd mentioned the open space plan, and I think I covered that pretty well at the beginning, but Jay and I both feel that's addressed now in general terms. In terms of the variance the BZA granted, the language has now been corrected to match that, so that's included in the ordinance as approved. Under additional staff analysis, we noted the last time Jay had a number of requested edits. They have made those to Jay's satisfaction and actually went to another round with them, today even, and cleaned up a few last things, just as we went back and forth, and those edits have also all been made. There was a specific concern about light manufacturing, and it being too broad for what would be consistent with the development. Standards have been added that limit its square footage, and also, tighten up, noting that whatever manufacturing might be incorporated, it can't have anything outdoors, it can't have any noise, it can't have any odor. It would be under 10,000 square foot, we're talking incubator types of things, not factories. Under summary and staff recommendations, so this was all here before, but probably 3/4 of it was highlighted in yellow as still needing to be addressed. At this point, everything on this list has been addressed. I just kind of stuck the dates in, but there's nothing that is missed. So, as we move on down, as of today, it does appear that all the changes that were required for the primary of the planned unit development are now addressed in general detail per the ordinance. Any other changes the board might desire would be based on your opinion about the content or the vision of the development, not because information is missing or doesn't meet the requirements for approval. So consequently, staff would recommend to favorably certify the application to the county commissioners. In terms of the PUD itself, as requested, the changes from the last time where things have been inserted have been highlighted in yellow. Now, if this is sent to the commissioners, regardless of recommendation, the final version of this will be formatted as an ordinance, and there won't be yellow in it, because it'll be then adopted into code, should they accept it. So it'll go in our normal LUPAC format, but the text will go exactly as approved, unless there's something that you want changed. And I would note that, I was very uncomfortable with being told to just write an ordinance with nobody looking at it or considering it, when the ordinance and state law specifically gives that responsibility to the plan commission. I would also say on the other side that if you as a board have a specific concern, there's something you don't like that you want changed that's minor, and it's one or two things, I would not be uncomfortable with making a minor change or two with the applicant, as long as you've specified what that change is supposed to be, so I can verify it's right going to the commissioners. But I haven't flagged anything, and Jay hasn't flagged anything that we believe is of major concern, and be mindful of the fact that this is, the ordinance will get adopted as written, but the plan, part of that, it's a general plan. So this is gonna come back to the plan commission, probably in phases for subdivision, primary approval, at which point you'll be looking at the details of the roads and the easements and the lot layouts and, those things. And then once the subdivision is done for each phase, you'll have a secondary development plan approval as that final step before construction starts. And, we'll be checking to make sure that what they've done in detail matches what they committed to in general. So I think if you have specific questions for me, I'm happy to try to answer those. But I think, as much as I can sum that up without eating up as much time as the whole staff report, I'm hoping that's sufficient, given that we went through the whole thing last time.
Okay, thank you. See the petitioners here, anything you think needs added for us to consider that wasn't covered?
We're doing pretty good.
Sounds like it. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this case? No? Okay, board discussion, comments?
I don't have any questions. I mean, we're relying on our expert staff and, legal counsel, but, you know, she wanted us to stick around, I guess, in the discussion to just be backup. So, you know, I feel comfortable that they've vetted everything.
I think a lot of time's been put into it, from their side as well as ours, and so I personally, after reviewing it, feel comfortable with the changes that we kind of needed to see after our special meeting, so. Any other thoughts? Okay, I'll entertain a motion if,
I'll make a motion to approve this next step,
favorably certified.
favorably certify. Okay, thank you.
Second?
That's Clark and Mike. right?
Yep.
Yes.
We'll do a roll call vote on this, please.
Jordan Brewer,
Yes.
Brett Muller,
Yes.
Clark Beard,
Yes.
Walt Minnick,
Yes.
and Mike Evans.
Yes.
All right. 5-0, so, I'll reach out this week to work with you to get this reformatted into an ordinance form with ordinance numbers and signature pages for the commissioners. And then I'll let you know that meeting date. I'm trying to think, do you know, what's your next meeting date?
15th.
The 15th?
Yeah,
So
Monday the
it'll be
15th.
May 15th, at 9 AM is when
Yep.
the meeting starts. So I guess I'm just announcing that in case anybody else wants to follow it. Or anyone listening online wants to follow it, so, all right. then
Okay. Next up is the public hearing. We have one, which will be application CC 2023-00277, which is the petition of Don Good. If you could take us through that development plan, please.
Certainly. This is another one you'll have to bear with me a moment on. So, this is the petition of John Good. It's a development plan hearing for primary development plan approval for, a gas station and convenience store, specifically back in that same area. It's what is and has been the BP there at the corner of 28th and 65. The site of the request is located in the southeast quadrant of the I-65 West State Road 28 interchange. The petition site's currently zoned B3, but it is part of the filed application that was just sent to the county commissioners for the larger planned unit development. In Article 6 development plans, it allows sites in the West State Road 28 overlay to be reviewed administratively, meaning they don't come to the board unless there's something about them that we as staff are uncomfortable with making a decision on. But since this site is also still zoned B3 in Teller unless the county commissioners choose to adopt the plan unit development, and B3 cannot be administratively reviewed, this plan needs to come to the APC. So there's a roughly 11-acre site here, and As of yet, the review has not obtained any variances, so it's against the standards of the ordinance as written. Usually we kind of do preliminary review, but in this case, I didn't get a look at the whole plan until it was filed for, development plan approval, so that's part of why you're gonna see some things that maybe don't follow quite. So, in terms of analysis, the petitioner is requesting a development plan approval for a new convenience store as they rework the fueling site. There's a variety of areas to review, which I've summarized, and then, for you guys, I've highlighted, identified issues in yellow, so those will stand out. First off, sewer and water is provided, by Clinton County, and the new C-store will hook into the county utility services. The commission has stated they're okay with hookup, as they have had conversations with the applicant, but there may be a permitting and approval process that may be, required before all said and done, that's still being developed. This is within 300 foot of a sewer line, so it is required to hook up, or it cannot be approved. Two, the drainage board has conditionally approved the drainage plan for 3 of 2023. The condition had to do with sizing and location of the pond. I sent a copy of the development plan that was submitted to us to the county surveyor, and he confirmed via email that the conditions of the drainage board approval were met, and it's good to go. Soil and Water's completed a review of the site and plans. They said everything's adequate for Rule 5 and ready to issue, but, there's still a few minor clarifications that they had needed an email back on, and they would let us know when they had those items taken care of. I haven't heard from them yet. As this site falls under the State Road 28 overlay, as well as several base ordinances such as buffer yards, lighting, parking, loading, signage, a full review of those standards is needed to look at everything with an eye towards overall design, but also, in this case, avoiding potential conflicts with the planned unit development, since we know that this is part of that overall development once approved. So even though I don't typically do this, I did cross-reference the PUD's plans as I went through my review. I did attach, and I'm not gonna go through line by line, 'cause it's summarized in the staff report, but I did attach my development plan review in detail for the board in case you wanted to see the exact ordinances, that applied and how the development measured up against them. And there's additional details in that. NDOT is not required to approve any new drive, as the drive that's shown off of 28 is existing now. Per an agreement with the county and with NDOT, the two easternmost drives will be fully removed, and the site will have new access off of the new road that will be constructed to run along the east side of the site. That road will be a county road back to at least the southernmost drive for the gas station. And per Rick Campbell, County Highway Superintendent, the Highway Department is willing to approve both proposed curb cuts as shown once that road is built. Buffer yards are shown in the site plan, they're mostly complete. The State Road 28 landscaping is a little more intense than regular buffer yards. The south does not have substantial work taking place, so it's actually gonna end up being graded and redeveloped with the planned unit development in terms of adding landscaping there, because there's gonna be a complete redesign. With existing developments, we have a little bit of flexibility in the ordinance for not requiring 100% compliance in buffer yards. So I am exercising that on the south line, where they're not touching it and there's gravel there, and we know the PUD is gonna take care of the landscaping there when it rolls through. They do need to add buffer yard information to the west that's missing at the plans currently. They have committed to do it, there just wasn't adequate time for them to get the plan revised. Lighting, as shown in the plan, is within compliance except for one fixture that, while it doesn't spill any light over the property line, it's not the required 3 times its height from the front property line. The applicant will need to get a variance or move the fixture. They actually filed a variance for that today. Parking standards are detailed in the review that's attached. They appear to meet the standards as proposed. In terms of loading spaces, there's 1 loading space required and 1 provided. In the last set of full plans that I'd had, though, that one that was provided was on the side and it didn't have any screening, and it was 5 foot too small in one direction. The applicant has committed to moving it to the rear, making it larger and screening it, but again, needs to add that into the plans. A commercial structure can have 4 square foot of building mounted signage for each linear foot of building frontage. So this building has 131 foot of frontage towards 28 and 63 foot of frontage towards the new county road. So that allows up to 524 square foot of building mounted signage toward 28 and 252 square foot toward the new county road. The signage that's proposed is a total of 166 square foot, it's 3 smaller signs, one over each door. So that's well within the requirements. There's no freestanding signage placed with this construction. If they choose to change that later, it'll have to be reviewed either separately, or come through under the PUD development plan, as that rolls through. And I believe, my understanding is ultimately this gas station is going to have cohesive signage with the planned unit development as shown in the signage plan there. So that's part of why they're not including it now. They intend to have the same look and feel. In terms of a general review, there were some extra questions and comments based on those plans. First, the applicant will be adding designated sidewalk areas in coordination with the PUD. The PUD will actually install those when they get to the common infrastructure part of that. But the concern I had as staff was that we're not approving and requiring landscaping to be put in at expense to the applicant, that then within the year, we're ripping back out and moving to put a required sidewalk in. So, what I've asked them to do, and they've agreed to do, is designate the areas the sidewalks will go, so we can see they're separate from where the landscaping is going and everything's there. So the two things don't conflict. Originally, when I seen these plans 2 years ago in their really preliminary form, they were taking down the front canopy and they were putting in a new canopy roughly the same size. In the plans I received with this filing, though, they've changed their plans a little bit. They're keeping the original canopy and adding a second canopy. So that makes it an expansion of a special exception use. So they actually need to go to the BZA for approval of that second canopy by this board first. And they did file that application today along with some of the variances that I'm mentioning. There's a few minor questions and items left on the landscaping and buffers, but the applicant has committed to resolve those in full. They just don't have the plans ready before this meeting. Same thing with a few clarifications on lighting other than that pole. In terms of showing their full shielding, they are gonna be able to fully comply. They just haven't got the full documentation to me. Again, as I noted, you got the loading space they've committed to resolve, just don't have revised plans. There was a question when I wrote this on curb returns. When they filed variances today, Jason and I had a conversation, and we determined that the curb returns are greater than 20 foot, meaning they will need a variance. So they've added it to their list. The challenge that both we and they had is the plans for the curb returns are on the county's road plans for the roundabout, but they don't actually lay out what the return radius is. It just draws it. And then those were pulled verbatim over into the plans for the development plan on this, showing what's happening on that side. So nobody really knows what that curb return radius is as of this moment today. So they've asked for a variance to be greater than 20 foot. We know it's that. And they're gonna try to give me a little bit more specific number before the BZA meeting. The Frankfurt Fire Department, we did talk to them, and they noted that fire hydrant is needed near the east side of the store at the entry to the parking lot. And then the fire department is fine with having parking between the building and where they're gonna sit, but they wanna make sure that the driving lanes on all 4 sides of the building do stay as designed, open and drivable, to allow them to position if there was a fire event. The applicant is committed to do those things, they just haven't had a chance to get them on the plans yet. So there's a series of variances that were highlighted in the staff report as being needed. They filed all but one of these today. So they need a variance from foundation planting requirements. They're putting in an extra wide sidewalk, and then they're adding some plantings kind of around the edge of the sidewalk, but they're not allowed the foundation of the building. And while there was some discussion about changing that with the stage they're at in engineering, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for them. So they're wanting to kind of compensate with more plantings out on the other side of the sidewalk and not have them on the foundation. The second one is because they happen to be a site like NHK that's close to the overpass, and 28 goes really, really high as it goes over 65, meaning that even though they're gonna have parapets, their rooftop equipment, we think there's a chance that it may well be visible from the top of the overpass by passing traffic. And so NHK had to do this as well. That variance is tucked in to cover that possibility. The third one listed here has actually changed. They did not file a variance for the missing 3 trees. With discussion on the fire hydrant, they've committed to add those 3 trees on some bump outs. One will be protecting the fire hydrant, and then there's gonna be a couple others that are added, so they're actually gonna meet the standards on that. They filed a variance for a roof over a refuse storage enclosure. This again was something NHK had to do as well. There's, kind of an odd clause in our ordinance, but we don't think it actually says what we intended to say, and it's on our list to change, but it does require a roof at the moment, so we all recommend that, because you've gotta be able to dump the trash. The lighting fixture, that was filed today, and that's the setback for the pole. And then, they're wanting to have lighting on the sides of the gas canopies, and the, ordinance for the State Road 28 overlay and lighting ordinance do not allow that by nature. So they've submitted some plans for what they'd like to do and how they're gonna control the light that might go there, and that's also filed for the BZA. So due to the fact that, for development plans, the Plan Commission, like subdivisions, you cannot approve something that does not meet the standards of the ordinance. If it meets the standards of the ordinance, then you're supposed to work through the process of approving it. So in this case, because there's variances needed that haven't yet been approved by the BZA, it doesn't meet the standards of the ordinance. We do expect that, they're going to submit final plans, and, from a staff perspective, we cannot guarantee how the BZA may or may not view these requests. As staff, we're supportive of them as being a reasonable compromise in the process of developing the plan to, get a good quality development that may not meet every letter of the law, but it does meet the spirit of the law. And they have bent and compromised and given back to us on a number of items we've highlighted that we've now weighed. We think this can be changed, and they're meeting the ordinance in those areas, especially on the State Road 28 and buffer yard plantings around the outside. So staff would recommend to continue the development plan approval to the next regularly scheduled meeting, nothing, in terms of a special meeting, especially given we're into planting right now. To allow the BZA to hear the special exceptions and variances and render decisions, and then for the applicant to, get a fully set of revised plans in that reflects the things they've committed to change, and if any variances are denied, reflects what has to be changed there as well. That said, this one's a little bit nuanced. The development plan elements that are, affecting the placement of the physical location of the C-store are met. There's drainage board approval, Rule 5 is gonna be good to go. Setbacks are adequate, there's traffic flow around the store location. In discussion with the applicant and our attorney, staff would support the Plan Commission directing the staff to issue a foundation-only permit, to allow them to go ahead and start work in this first month on only the foundation. They do already have a state design release that's foundation only. When we do administrative development plans, this is not uncommon for us to do as staff. If it's taking longer to work through the big picture, the only caveat we put on it, and I've noted it here, is we make sure applicants are aware, and we put it on the permit, that if they choose to start a foundation-only permit, it is at their own risk. And if something unexpected were to happen to come up in the development plan, or with the state and the state design release process for the full building, they understand that they are responsible for correcting whatever needs to be corrected if they acted and chose to take that risk and something changes. We've done this by 17 years, enough that it's not rare. I haven't had one yet that actually did, but the possibility is always there. So I always make sure applicants understand that, and I would ask that the board is willing to direct the APC to issue a foundation-only permit, that you would also emphasize that to the applicant. Then the full development plan would come back next month. They would not be able to start on the building or anything else until that was reviewed, only the foundation. So I think that concludes staff recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Liz. Is there anything the petitioner would like to add? Don or Steven?
Yeah, I mean, Liz covered it pretty well. Yeah, just appreciate your consideration.
Okay. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak? Okay. Board discussion, questions?
Well, I guess I would just ask, it sounds like you're willing to take on the risk on the foundation, for, you know, it seems to me it's pretty low risk, but I just wanted to hear that from you, I guess.
Sure. We realize that, you know, if something does come up and doesn't get passed, it would be to us to meet the standards that we make it go. So we're taking that risk on ourselves.
It's a similar risk that they're taking by building if they work off a state design release for
Foundation.
foundation only.
Yeah.
Right, and they've
which
already got that.
Which is done pretty routinely.
Because you can get that foundation release a ton faster than the whole building release, so we do see that a lot. NHK was actually that way, they had foundation releases and a foundation only permit initially, and a couple months later, state finished reviewing the rest of it. It was good to go.
So what do you need, Liz? You need a motion to continue with, the kind of a condition that we direct you as staff to, go ahead and issue this foundation-only permit? Is that how that
I
motion?
think it probably should be two separate motions,
Okay.
because in terms of the development plan itself, you know, you'd be making a motion to continue that. It's not an approved development plan because it doesn't meet all the standards. But then separately, you know, assuming the board is comfortable with it, directing the staff to go ahead and issue the foundation-only permit at their own risk, based on the fact that the elements of the development plan that affect the location of the foundation do appear to be complete and meet the ordinance as nearly as we can tell with the information provided.
And so the process, meeting will be at the end of this month for the
Yes,
variances, and
It
then,
would be the fourth Tuesday, the 23rd
Okay.
of this month, so answers will be given about a week before
yep,
our board reconvenes, so then they'll have time to, if not granted, figure out what they're gonna do, the revised plans, or come back with them granted and being
Okay.
able to say it meets the standards.
The good thing is, the variances being requested aren't that difficult in terms of us being able,
they're not extreme.
they're not extreme,
Yeah.
they're not extreme.
They've been, very cooperative in looking to find a balance between what we want as a community and some things that are just practically difficult, or in the case of State Road 28 going over 65, downright impossible.
Yeah.
You'd have to elevate that building a ridiculous amount for someone at the top of that to not be able to see the road.
Understand. Also, I'll have the curb radius for you tomorrow.
That would be awesome.
Yep.
We would all appreciate
I
that.
tried to get it this evening, but they didn't know it off the top of their head, but
It's
get it to me
okay.
tomorrow.
We concluded quickly this afternoon that none of us knew it off the top of our head. So-
Well, I'll
And if
start the ball rolling by making a motion, to continue the development plan till next regular meeting.
Second.
okay, roll call.
It was Clark and Mike. Jordan Brewer,
Yes.
Grant Muller,
Yes.
Mark Beard,
Yes.
Walt Minnick.
Yes.
Yes.
One of you other guys can handle the other.
Mine can go ahead.
Do I have a follow-up motion?
You wanna tell me what I'm supposed to say?
I can tell you what you.
I'd be glad to.
A motion to issue a foundation-only permit with the understanding that the applicant is taking on the risk if there's an issue that doesn't get granted with it, that they'll be responsible financially, and
Okay.
the county will not.
I move that we grant a foundation-only permit with the understanding that the petitioners are taking the responsibility if things don't move forward as planned.
Okay, had,
Who was my second?
Walt was the second.
I wasn't picking up.
Yes.
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 So we'll be able to get the foundation only permit ready for you guys. In the office, we'll try to get it tomorrow if we can. If, Jason, if you would though, in the morning, if you could email me on one email, the plans related to the foundation and the foundation state design release, because I know you sent them. but they're scrambled in with everything else, and then the, copy of the drainage board approval as well. And, soil and water.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Do we have any new business?
We do not.
Okay. Our next meeting will be June sixth, unless, a board member has anything that needs discussed or brought up. Anything? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Alright. Thank you.
June sixth.
Mike was second.
Mike was second, don't stand on procedure here. Mike was the second. All right, you wanna text Tim to, that the meeting is done and to turn off the,
I just did.
awesome, thank you,
Yeah.
Jordan.
When did you say the next meeting was?
June sixth is